Before I decided to resign and start a career break, it was really important for me to have a good estimate of what I thought a year would cost. So I needed to think through what would be the cost for two people, for my husband and I, and factor in that it was really our plan to be traveling or away outside of the US for a whole month. My plan, my strategy for budgeting has really changed after the first 3 months. So in this video, I really want to cover how it is that I go about budgeting and projecting our costs, because that might help you if you're also planning to take some extended time off. The first thing that I found helpful was really to look at the big picture and kind of take a swag at what I expected to spend for a whole year, and to kind of get to that number as to what I thought it might cost for two people to travel the world for a year. I looked at two things. One, I took a look at what our spending was monthly and annually. Just when we were home, just when we were in Arizona, how much were we really spending? And I know I've had this conversation with several family members or friends, and I think that can be a surprising number for some people that don't track their current spending, right? Sometimes you can feel like, I'm working really hard, I should be saving more money, I don't know where it goes, right? And so the best way to get a good estimate of what your current cost of living is to look at what you're spending. It's a painful exercise, it's not that much fun unless you're a numbers person. But I do think it's absolutely necessary. So we had a good idea. We've been tracking it for several years. We have a good idea of exactly what it costs for us to live in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so we knew that we didn't want to spend any more than that. That at least gave us a cap or a ceiling so that we knew about how much we tend to spend every year. Then the other factor we wanted to consider was, how much can we offset that this year? Can we have any revenue that can help us? I don't mind sharing that we have a goal that at the end of the year, at the end of this time off, we would love to have more savings than what we started out with, right? And that doesn't come easy. That comes with being strategic around building passive income streams, but more importantly, I really think it comes down to what you're spending and really controlling your expenses, so that you still have the experiences that you want, but you're not eating away at your savings unnecessarily. What that number is, quite frankly, it doesn't matter what it is, because it's going to be different for each of you. It could be $100,000 a year. It could be $20,000 a year, whatever. Let's just say the annual budget that I targeted was $50,000, right? So the next thing I did was say, okay, we have $50,000 to spend this year on our year away, on our career break. So that gives us around $4,000 a month, right? So originally, I looked at the big picture, what I wanted to spend, and then I just saw a target monthly average. However, that target monthly average began to stress me out after the first month and the second month and the third month that we went over the target monthly budget. It wasn't a surprise. I want to make that clear, because I knew that we were going to be in locations that were going to cost us more during that time. But it was starting to make me feel a little bit stressed out about how much we were spending. Are we going to get to do all the things we want to do later in the year? Are we really going to have the money left over? And so for me, I knew that right around that 2 or 3 month mark, I needed to change my budgeting and forecasting approach, right? So instead of just saying, here's a bucket of dollars for the year, here's about on average how much you can spend each month, I really started to dig in to where we were going and how much we should target spending during that time. So the exercise really shifted from having just a standard monthly budget to really looking into where do we want to go? What is the cost of living? How much is it going to cost us to get there? How are we going to get there? What do we really want to do? What experiences do we want to have? How much does it cost to eat? So I want to make it clear, this is not just a quick thing that you plug in, right? This approach that works best for me does require more research and a bit of an idea as to where you want to go. And you know what, there's flexibility with it, right? But what I found very helpful was to really look at, generally speaking, where are we going to be every month? And I just try to do a little bit of research about how much is an average accommodation? How much on average do people spend to eat or to go to the groceries? Do people buy groceries? Thailand, for example, is a place that we plan to go. Vietnam is a place that we plan to go. And in those months, I would anticipate us spending much less on groceries because it's more common to eat all of your meals out, right? So what I would recommend is that you just really look at where are you going to be each month and just plugging in some numbers for 1, for 2, for 4, however many people that you think are going to come along with you, and start to get a really good feel for what you're going to spend. What surprised me is I started doing this exercise. I kind of set aside the first 3 months because I knew what we had spent already. That was gone, that was spent. But as I started to look at what I really think it's going to cost us as we start to make our way further east, I started feeling a lot better that we really hadn't gone over budget. We were right on track, and that we still have plenty of funds to sustain us for, the next 8 to 9 months while we're gone. For me, the hardest thing to find was really how much is it going to cost day to day, because there's just so much information out there and people live so differently. This is the gap, right? A lot of information that I was coming up with in Google searches, on Pinterest, with ChatGPT, it's pulling all this information, quite frankly, from a lot of budget travelers. And budget travelers are amazing, and they are resourceful, and they find all the best hostels and they find all the best street food, and I think that's really good. But that's not necessarily how we plan to spend our time, right? We would like maybe more of a base for longer terms. We're doing more slow travel than fast travel, so that factors into the budget. I'm not looking for luxury accommodations, but I want to be comfortable if I'm going to base myself there for 2 to 3 weeks. And so that is something that will just take some time for you to look into and get some level of comfort. It's not even about nailing it down to the exact penny as to how much you think you're going to spend. It's really to help you get an understanding, at least on a monthly basis, how much do you think it's going to cost you? And then you can make sure that you're checking in as you go. And you honestly might be surprised that as you go on, you are not spending more than what you thought you would. For us, this career break has really turned into a year of travel, among other things. But travel costs money, you're moving around constantly. And one of the things that we did is we are moving to places that have nicer weather, right? Or at least maybe a shoulder season, let's say. So that's another thing that I need to keep in mind. We're going to be spending some time in Southeast Asia, but it's going to be right on the cusp of high season because I want the best weather and I want the best experiences for our time there. I don't want to be underwater, for example. So that's just another thing you need to make sure you're factoring in when you're looking at how much it might cost you for your accommodations. Is there any seasonality, high season, low season? Sometimes that can be a very big swing. So don't underestimate the power of seasonality when you are budgeting. And then the last thing to keep in mind is just make sure that you're revising your budget, your projections as you go. The more time you spend doing whatever it is that you want to do, traveling, writing, creating, whatever it is that you're doing, the longer you're doing it and the more acutely aware you are of exactly what you're spending and how you're spending it is going to inform how the rest of your year is going to play out. So right from the very beginning, it was really important for me to be able to track every single cent that we are spending on this trip. So I'm using an app called TravelSpend. For the first 4 months, I just used the free version, right? So it's an app. You just, as you're out and about, as you're at the grocery store, if you're buying a bottle of water, if you're at the bar, if you're taking money out of the ATM, if you're going sightseeing, it has, kind of your basic categories to help you track your spend. It gives you a good graphical breakdown. And then I was taking that out and putting it into my own Excel spreadsheet so that I could manipulate it a little bit better. Now that I'm in my 4th month, I have found that app quite helpful. And so I wanted to go ahead and pay for the paid version so that I can export that data. It just saves me some time of having to retype everything. It lets me look at breakdowns of different countries and different categories, whereas before some of those features were locked when I didn't have the paid version. And it cost me, I think, $12.99 for the year. So for me, paying $1 a month to keep track of these things is worthwhile. I'm going to put it on my expenses because I'm tracking every cent. And then I also have a reminder for myself to make sure to cancel the subscription around this time next year. So as you're thinking about your budgeting, I would really give some thought to not just having a standard monthly spend, especially if you're going to be doing different things, making investments, having experiences. It really is worthwhile to think about what those things are going to be upfront and when they're going to happen, and then really track your expenses as you go so that you can see, how am I doing on my spend? How are we doing on our budget? Do we need to cut back on anything? Can we splurge on something, right? I was slightly shocked to say that now that we're in our 4th month and I readjusted our budget to not only reflect where we're going, but also where we were, that I think we're kind of under budget still. So that makes me feel, one, a little bit better, and it means that maybe I can have a few more experiences or stay in a nicer location than what I originally thought I could. Budgeting is not about perfection. It's just about giving you a sense of security and understanding and expectations to really help you mind your expenses so that you're having really the best stress-free year that you can have, so that when you come back, you spent exactly what you thought you were going to spend, and you can dive into whatever the next best thing is. Are you a budgeter? I'd love to hear if you've taken some time off, or even in your day-to-day life, are you someone that follows a budget? I will say my husband and I have kind of 2 different schools of thought here, but we are very much aligned now. We share all the time, exactly how much have we spent and, kind of what is our target budget. So it makes us feel a lot more comfortable with this year and with really helping us meet that goal that we will have more savings than when we left. If you have any tips, if you budget a different way, I would love to hear it. And I think the more that we could share and help others, the better. So let me know in the comments below.